Hey guys, so the new balance has come and Anaconda is gone, so that's certainly a big blow for Cyber Dragons, but it's okay, we do still have other options to play. Now for this list I'm bringing today in particular, it's going to be Cyber Dragons with a small Therion package. Now I decided to try something new and up the deck size to 50 cards, partly to account for the additional cards for Therion, but also to beef up a bit more on going second cards because, well, going second nowadays has become a lot more difficult. So let's just get started with the profile and I'll bring some replays on my channel soon with this deck. Alright, so starting with the main deck, we of course have the 3 Cyber Dragon cores, the best card in this deck. And then we have the 3 Hers, 2 Naxter, and the 3 Cyber Dragons. So this ratio just has not changed for me since ever. I think it's pretty standard. Some people like to play just 1 Naxter, that's totally fine. I probably would not play 3 though. As for the core, obviously it's always going to be at 3. And then for the Hers, I've seen people play it at 2 as well in some instances. Really, it's up to you. I personally like to max it out. And then just, this is typically for the Galaxy Soldier play. And for those of you watching and you're completely new to Cyber Dragons, I would probably recommend that you watch my previous deck profile, which I'll link below, where I cover the details more in depth, and also how to play Cyber Dragon guides and etc. You can watch all of that and I'll link all of those videos down below. This one's going to be pretty brief. Next, we have the 2 Galaxy Soldiers. So now earlier I mentioned that I'm actually playing a 50 card list now. So that's why I actually thought about just putting this to 3. I was actually flipping back and forth with it. I might still go back to 3 because obviously my deck size is bigger now. But for now, it was still working at 2. And so I guess I'll roll with that for now. And we do have that Jizukru, the other light machine that you can search off of Repair Plan to out your opponent's problematic monsters. Of course, if your opponent has Windbarrier statue, then this is useless. But for the most part, it's going to be a pretty big card for you. Some other monsters, we do have the 3 Ash. So that's the hand trap along with the Imperm that I'm meaning. And then I have some more hand traps on the side. Really key right now because of all the branded stuff. It's not even just branded Despia. There's just so many different branded variants like Eldritch, for example. And ashing this for the branded fusion is pretty clutch. So yeah, I think everyone should be playing Ash. Next up is the new stuff, which is the 2 Therion. I'm playing the 2 Field Spell and 1 Terraforming. You can also play Mystic Mine, which if you saw my Cyber Dragon Therion replay video I posted a month ago on that list, I actually did put Mystic Mine in there. And it's something that we, as a going second deck, we could never really play because we didn't have a Field Spell of our own to be able to easily out it. Because obviously you don't want to just like use your own Cosmic Cyclone or something to out your own Mystic Mine to start your plays again. So you can play it. I've been briefly playing it, but for me personally, I just couldn't get myself to play that card anymore. It's just way too evil and kind of makes everything pretty boring. But who knows, maybe in a future profile you'll see me play Mystic Mine and I'll be a huge hypocrite at that point. In terms of the Therion stuff, I think for now 2 has been working fine. And the Field Spell, you could just play 3 I guess and not the Terraforming. I mean, you can just sort of use this to thin out your deck. And also, because you're going second deck, in a certain situation, when your opponent sees you play Terraforming, they might be worried that you have Mystic Mine and they might try to Ash this instead. So that's sort of the logic behind it. And Therion, of course, I mean, I'm sure most of you will probably know by now, but basically it serves as an Omni Negate by essentially equipping like a machine monster in your graveyard. Ideally, you want to equip the Her so that when you sort of send us off to negate something, then the Hers will also go to the graveyard and then the Hers will trigger. The Field Spell is actually quite nice. That battle protection is really nice because, for example, we typically have like an Almirage on board now that we don't have Anaconda. That protects from that protects from card destruction effects, and then now this can also protect Infinity from battles at least once. And then you can also just Foolish another Therion card, and then if monsters destroy the battle, you can just add a Therion monster back to your hand so that you just have some follow-up and have that Omni Negate on an ongoing basis. And it's a big beater too at 2800 attack. Oh, and also, you know, because these 2 cards, the Therion, it's quite expensive at the moment. So, you know, if you don't want to spend the money on it, that's totally fine. Like, you don't need this package to play Cyber Dragons right now. And it's quite a lot of money just for that little added boost. So if you don't want to play it, honestly, you can just get rid of these 5 cards in your deck list and it'll be perfectly fine. On to the remaining spells, of course, we have the triple Cyber Emergency to search your Cyber Dragon monster. And so usually I find people are not going to be ashing this card anymore just because of Drytron. And especially with Ben 10 coming back to 2, I guess we'll see a little bit more of Drytron. And, you know, not gonna lie, your opponent will probably sigh a brief relief when they see you add like Cyber Dragon Core instead of Drytron monsters. So, don't be too offended. It's fine. You can try to OTK them and make up for it. The other card is the Cyber Repair Plan. You can play this set 2. It's funny, I used to actually play this set 2 myself until Infernoble became tier 1 a couple of years ago and they were like hand ripping. So I just cut it to make room for more hand traps and I just stuck with that ratio ever since. But, basically this is primarily used to add your Galaxy Soldier, sometimes your Jizakuru, and so it's a really good card, but you do need that Cyber Dragon in graveyard, so sometimes it can be dead. The other card is the Rev System. So not as good as before now that Anaconda is gone, because prior to Anaconda being legal, you could search this with core, link it off to Almirage, use this to bring back the core, and then link into Anaconda, so it was a one card Dragoon essentially, or DPE. But now, I still like it regardless. It's basically either specials from graveyard or your hand in terms of Cyber Dragon. If it's from the hand, you do have to special summon original Cyber Dragon, whereas if it's in the graveyard, then it could be like your baby Cyber Dragons, for example. And that monster will not be destroyed by card effects permanently, or at least until it leaves the field. So it's pretty nice. A card that's making a return to the deck list is now Cyberload Fusion. I had previously cut this when I was playing Dragoon or DP, for example, because I didn't want to play too many fusion spells, and you were prioritizing Dragoon with Anaconda anyway, so you weren't banishing as much through Overload Fusion, so this card was not as live as before. But now it's good. It enables you to, for example, banish with Overflow, pop some cards, and then on Resolution you would use this card to return those banished Cyber Dragon monsters back into your deck, special Chimera Tech Rampage, pop more spell and traps, so it's pretty nice. And I'm also playing Cyber Twin that you'll see in the extra later. It can allow for some OTKs, because our OTK strength has now drastically reduced with Anaconda being banned, because prior to that, a typical Infinity combo would allow you to OTK, at least against an open board, but now it's not going to be the case, and you have to work a little extra hard for that. On to some other Cyber Dragon related spells, but not officially, is the Machine Duplication. Of course, really is what enables you to do your Nova Infinity plays very easily. It's also not once returned, so if they ash it and you have another one, then you can do it again. So it's really nice. I love that card. And of course, Overload Fusion. So even though Anaconda's banned, I'm still playing this at 1. And now keep in mind, before Anaconda was released, so a lot of lists were actually still playing this at 1 anyways, because it's more of like, if you have it, you have it kind of card. If you want to play it at 2, that's totally fine as well. I mean, I guess some people might want to play it at 3, but just keep in mind that it's not going to be live in cases, so it's iffy, so it's up to you. Next, some staple spells. We have the 3 Pot of Prosperities. So this card is really good in this deck. Cyber Dragons sort of have they just always had some consistency issues, and just being able to dig for it, and it's half damage. Like, some people complain about that, saying that it conflicts with Cyber Dragon's strategy, and it really doesn't. It's not all about just trying to OTK your opponent as fast as possible. Like, really, because this deck can brick, it's better to have some plays than just not be able to play at all. And even if you're doing half damage, right? Like, you want to at least play the game. So this card is really, really important. It is very expensive right now, though. So again, if you don't have it, like, don't sweat it too much. And hope for the reprint. And to be honest with you, this card might get limited or semi-limited in the near future, just like how Potted Desires was. But for now, it's good that we have it at 3. And then we, of course, we have the Forbidden Droplet for that monster negate. It's really nice that it's a quick play, and also unlike Dark Ruler, you can still do damage, but again, at the same time, if you want to main Dark Ruler instead, like, that's totally fine as well. I was actually considering that, because again, it's not just about trying to OTK and like kill your opponent as fast as possible. This deck is surprisingly grindy, even for an OTK kind of strategy, and not just the trap version of the Cyber Dragons. So, I personally really like this card, but if you want to play Dark Ruler, that's totally fine. And then same, also more board break cards are the Lightning Storms. I like it because it's primarily it is used for back row, but you know what, at least it has some flexibility of being able to hit attack position monsters as well. So that's really nice. And a bit of a new addition for me personally is that I'm trying double tactics, because balance is pretty good right now, and it's sort of explained by like the recent price increase of this card and so you have decks like, for example, like Branded Despia, they're going to activate effects in the main phase, like on your main phase, same with Flunder. So being able to like take or draw or shuffle a card back from their hand, pretty nice. I mean, if I were to cut them, I would again think about putting like the third Galaxy Soldier and like maybe even like the Mystic Mind. So, you know, it's up to you. And finally, onto the traps is that the one Overflow, it's really, really good in terms of popping. It doesn't target, it does not banish for cost, although that does mean that it is susceptible to being Ghost Spell, so that sucks, but it's a really good card. And also when it gets popped, you can add a Cyber Dragon spell or trap, including itself if you play multiple copies. Some other honorary Cyber Dragon cards is the Infinite Impermanence. No, you cannot search it, but it's got Cyber Dragon Infinity on the artwork, so that's kind of cool. It's personally my favorite card of all time. Really, really flexible for a going second deck. It's nice to have something that's flexible for going first and second, and this can also shut down potential floodgates if you set it first, of course, and so it's really nice. And the other board break cards, as I mentioned earlier, I did up my deck size up to 50 just to fit more board break cards because it's a pretty tough format for going second, and evenly match is really good right now. And I also like that people have not been playing Lancia lately, and so now I also don't have to worry about that potentially stopping this on top of any other cards that could stop this, so it's really, really nice to have. Alright, so that's it for the main deck, so let's just move on to the extra deck. We of course start with the Omirage, the Link one, basically to get your baby Cyber Dragon into the grave to get your Repair Plant live. We also play the Lina. Now, it's a nice generic Link to, well, not really generic I guess, but our monsters are light, so it's generic for us. And you know, you can try to special like your opponent's Eldritch or maybe even Mechaba, which I've done, and you just get yourself a negate. So it's, you know, nice to have and it's very cheap. Seeger is also, of course, a staple in Cyber Dragons. Really is there to boost your Chimeric Rampage up to 4200 and attack 3 times. And remember, you can also check out all my Cyber Dragon ruling videos. When you use Seeger's effect, this card itself will not do any damage, but the other monster that Seeger is boosting, that will do damage. So don't let your opponent try to trick you otherwise. You know, the wording on this is a little confusing, but that's the whole, you know, this in terms of being able to boost the Rampage and deal a ton of damage is like the whole premise of this card and strategy, so yeah, keep that in mind. We also have the Anima. Your Hers and Naxxter are level 1, so just make a habit of specialing out the Kaiju, the Jizukuru, or like the Nibiru token, for example, onto zones 2 and 4 so that you can suck it up. We also have the oh, sorry, just a bad habit. Oh man, I'm sad. Anyway, so we also have we have the 2 Nova and 2 Infinity. This is like the ratios that I've been playing for a very long time because, as I always say, I like to special out the Nova with Naxxter and then just overlay the second Infinity on top of it so that you can summon it with a negate. We're also playing the Constellar Pleiades again, back to the classic Cyber Dragon days. It's another rank 5 that can bounce your opponent's cards. So I personally don't really summon this out too much, and even when I have the hand to be able to summon like Infinity and Pleiades, I don't typically do that because I don't want to overcommit, and I like to just save my resources just so that I can make like another Infinity the next turn if I get blown out or something. But I do make this in certain situations. For example, I made this to bounce back the Mirror Jade because in that instance, Mirror Jade's effect to like pop your monsters won't actually trigger because of like the new ruling clarification where if an extra deck monster goes back to the extra deck, it doesn't count as leaving the field. So this was pretty nice. And of course, we have the Zeus. It's really nice to have, you know, you do your attack with Infinity. You also, of course, try to attach like your opponent's monster if it's in attack mode, and then slap that Zeus on there. It's also a machine, so even if you use Naxxter's turn to revive earlier that turn, it's still fine. You can go into that Zeus, and so it's kind of nice. You can even like in the same turn, for example, you use Zeus's effect to wipe, and then if you have like a Naxxter that you can summon in that same turn, you can just bring back the Infinity and like attach Naxxter as material. So now you have like an Omni Negate and then another Zeus wipe. Then onto the fusions, we have 2 Chimeric Rampage. So now that I'm also playing Cyberload Fusion, it makes sense to have 2 copies of this. It does come up, and it's also, it can come out if, for example, if Nova gets like Nibiru or something like that. It's a really nice card. It can attack multiple times, but being able to also Foolish, primarily you're sending like the Hers and Naxxter from deck to graveyard. So, you're primarily sending Hers and Core to the graveyard from the deck, and then Hers will trigger and you can add back that core from the graveyard to your hand for the follow-up play, and it's what enables your TKs. We have the Chimeric Fortress, of course. Usually you're just giving your opponent your Jizukuru and then contact fusing away and make Fortress. Another option available now that we have Therion is that if you equip original Cyber Dragon for Therion, you can actually contact fuse that Cyber Dragon in the equip zone with another machine that you have, or I guess on the field, and make that Chimeric Fortress. It's a really weird ruling, but yes, you can look it up if you don't believe me. That is legal. We have the Mega Fleet, of course. Really good to just get rid of your opponent's monsters in the extra monster zone. Sadly, right now, some of the top decks, for example, like Branded Despia or Flunder or, I don't know, I guess Eldritch, like they don't really link summon, right? So it's not as good in that sense, but a lot of rogue decks will summon a lot of link monsters. And also against Sky Striker, which is quite popular in pretty much every format, they they link summon a lot, but they're also machines, so you can also use Fortress, but you can always consider second Mega Fleet if you want to. And I'm also actually playing Cyber Twin again because, for example, if you have core and just at least one Cyber Dragon, if your opponent has an empty board, you attack with those two, that's 25, and then you activate Cyber Low Fusion in the battle phase though, return those two monsters back to the deck, summon this, attack twice for 2800 each. Then in total that ends up being 8100 along with the Cyber Dragon and the core that attacked earlier. So that's OTK there. So because we don't have Anaconda anymore, sometimes that easy OTK could come up. So it's nice to have. There's other options that you can play. I've been like flipping back and forth. I was trying Dingirsu as well because Therion's a level 8, and then Chimera Tech Fortress is also level 8. So like I said earlier in that example, if you were to contact fuse into Chimera Tech Fortress using that Cyber Dragon equipped with Therion, then you can like do your rank 8 play with the Dingirsu. I also was trying, like, for example, Nightmare Phoenix. That's a card I used to play as well before Anaconda was released. So lots of different options. So that's it for the extra deck. Alright, so onto the side deck, and this one's a little more in development, but for now, I'm trying with the 3 Ogre, and mainly because, Fluandrees is probably the worst matchup for this deck, because that deck is just insanely consistent now, and going second against it, it can be really, really hard, and their field spell is just bonkers. So Ghost Ogre is there for that. It's certainly also good for like Brave Engine example, but unfortunately it's not good against Branded Despia, so that's why I decided instead of maining it for now. I'm also playing 3 Drolls. So this, again, against Fluandrees, it can be really good. The problem is if they have D-Shifter, then you're not going to be able to activate Droll anymore. And I guess you could say the same thing with Ghost Ogre too. So, but at the same time, I guess if they have Shifter, they have Shifter, and like you were probably gonna lose anyways. It's just a really, really strong card, and unfortunately, Cyber Dragons will struggle against Shifter. But Droll is there also. Drytrons, I mean, I guess they might come back a little bit because of Ben 10 to 2, but it's usually good against Rogue decks as well, and it's certainly not bad to have. Onto the other hand traps is also 2 Ghost spells, really good against actually a lot of decks, really. I mean, certainly Branded Despia, that's really good against that. And I mean, I guess like there's going to be a lot of Eldritch decks too, so this can also stop Sanguine on top of the Ash. So, it's certainly nice to have, and I'm pretty sure you'll be seeing this in most people's main or side deck. And then some other going second cards is the 3 Dark Ruler No Mores. Certainly helps against something like Fluandrees, I suppose, because especially with D-Shifter again, then you're not going to be able to activate droplets anymore, so Dark Ruler comes in handy there, and it's just nice. You don't have to discard anything, and you won't deal any damage, but hey, if you can clear your opponent's board, let's say you like just attack, go into Zeus, and just clear everything, that's certainly nice to have. I decided to play 2 Twins instead of the Cyclones, and this is again partly related to Fluandrees. I mean, they're a Dreaming Town trap card that can only be activated in the main phase, and so you want to have a quick play spell trap removal for that. The problem is if they have more than one set, with Cyclone, it's hard to guess which one it is, and hopefully they only have 2 sets, or even not just 1, and then you can also get rid of the field spell. So for now, I decided to use Twins, but of course, did this card in this deck, it's a little challenging to have. I mean, if you can discard the Hers, that's ideal, but that's not going to be the case a lot. And you're also potentially discarding with droplets, not always, because you can send something on the field instead as cost, but just to be aware of that. And we also have the Feather Duster, of course. It's just nice to have, really. Blowout spell trap removal. Again, there's probably a lot of Eldritch going on right now, especially at the start of the format when people aren't sure what deck to play, other than obviously if they already have Branded Despia, then they're just going to play that. And the other back removal, well, not quite removal per se, but the strongest one of them all is Red Reboot. I certainly miss it when this was at 3, especially because this is the only card that can stop something like Featherstorm that Fluandrees may play. So it's certainly key to have, and it's really nice. If it would ever come back to 3, I really, really doubt it. But yeah, that's it for the side at the moment. As you will probably notice, for the first time, I'm no longer playing Summon Limit in the side at the moment. I decided to just go with like more hand traps and like these kind of going second cards, just because I'm not intentionally choosing to go first much nowadays anymore, especially because you have decks like Fluandrees. Even if you try to go first and they D-Shifter you, then you can't really do much anyways. And same thing for like any decks that play, for example, the Brave Engine. That engine is pretty good going second because of that Draco back that can bounce. So for the most part, I'm finding also, decks nowadays, when they're going first decks, they don't really make you go first post side anymore like they used to. just because they're just so much better going first anyways. So yeah, that's why I decided to switch up my side quite a bit this time, but you know, again, still in the works. Alright guys, so that's it for the deck profile. Hope you found that useful to get you started. As mentioned earlier, I will be providing some replays with this deck soon. As always, a big thanks to my patrons, and if you're interested in joining as well, the link will be in the description below, and you can always feel free to message me on there. Take care guys.